Welcome in. It's Big Ten Today, presented by Old National Bank. It is great to have you with us on this Tuesday. Dave Revson and Megan McEwen. The women's tournament tips off tomorrow in Minneapolis. You're fired up and ready to go. I appreciate you delaying your departure to spend a little time here with us and unveil these awards.
There's no better reason to delay a departure than to unveil these awards.
Well, the awards, yes.
The awards, 100%.
Yes,
and also I get to hang out with you. So what more could I want, really?
If the incentive was to hang out with us, then I can think of dozens of reasons. But the awards.
But the awards is really what pushed it over the top for me, is what I'm saying.
All right, let's get into it. And as our big story today, as you would imagine, those individual awards in the Big Ten. In news that will surprise absolutely no one, Iowa's Caitlin Clark, the Big Ten Player of the Year, as selected by the coaches and the media. It's the second straight year she's won it, becomes the 9th player to capture this award back-to-back seasons, averaging 27.2 points per game. That is tops in the conference, second in the nation, and she leads the nation in assists. 3 triple-doubles, leads all women and men nationally. Coaches and media also agreeing on the Coach of the Year. It's Indiana's Teri Moren. This is Moren's second Big Ten Coach of the Year award. She also won it 7 years ago. Has led the Hoosiers to a 26-2 record in the regular season. Those 26 wins already a school record. Hoosiers outright Big Ten champs, first time in school history. Other individual honors, Indiana's Mackenzie Holmes, the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, leading the league in blocks for the 3rd straight year. Cody McMahon of Ohio State, the Freshman of the Year, 9th Buckeye to win that award. That's the most of any school. Iowa's Hannah Stolke, the 6th Player of the Year, 5th in the Big Ten, shooting nearly 62% from the field. Here is the full all Big Ten first team. You got 12 players in all because the coaches and media agreed on 8 of them. And then you had 2 who made the media team but not the coaches team, and then 2 vice versa. The 8 who made both are Clark and Holmes, along with Makira Cook, Grace Berger, Monica Sonano, Diamond Miller, Leah Brown, and Taylor Mikesell. Cheyenne Sellers, McKenna Marisa, both first-teamers on the media side. Coaches went with Emily Kaiser and Jazz Shelley. Holmes, Clark, and Miller, unanimous picks on both teams. All right, let's break this down a little bit, Megan. Let's start with the Player of the Year. What can you say about Caitlin Clark? She's just phenomenal.
There's no words to be said about Caitlin Clark, especially what she did this past weekend against Indiana to knock down the buzzer beater, because we love drama here in the Big Ten Conference. Caitlin Clark is one of the most prolific players in all of college basketball because she has brought so much excitement and entertainment and interest to women's basketball. The way she plays is so much fun, but she's a generational player because she has such a fantastic IQ. Yes, the scoring's impressive. She can knock it down from the logo, she can get to the basket, she can hit from the mid-range, but her ability to facilitate at a high level, those 8 assists per game, which lead the nation, make her so lethal because she's rebounding the ball at 6 feet tall, starting the break, and as a result, Iowa is able to score so many points at such a high rate because Clark's able to push the ball so quickly. Her vision on the floor is incredible, and it helps when you have a player like Monica Sonano, who ranks 3rd in the nation in field goal percentage at nearly 67%. You know, that effectiveness and efficiency has been really helpful for a recipe for success.
It is the assists, for whatever reason, that have stood out to me in Washington. Yeah. First of all, just that she is such a fabulous passer, her vision, like you talked about, but to last year, lead the nation in scoring and lead the nation in assists. I mean, people think about her as just, well, she's a phenomenal shooter. She's the best shooter in country and all that. And all that stuff's true, but she's such a complete, well-rounded player, an incredible rebounder as well. It's phenomenal to watch. I mean, it makes your jaw drop how good she is.
It does. It makes your jaw drop. And one, she's incredibly poised as a person. I know you're going to see her interviewed coming up here in a moment, and you'll kind of get to appreciate that. Her maturity, though, has been so impressive since she stepped on foot in Iowa City. I remember talking to her. I actually did her first national television game ever, and I remember talking to her beforehand. And she was so mature for a freshman, and her ability just to speak with adults, but also to explain the game and what she's trying to accomplish for Lisa Bluder. She's so loyal to Iowa. She loves Lisa Bluder. She loves her teammates. She's loyal to that fan base. And it's just a really special player for a school like Iowa to be able to embrace and have with them.
It's really cool that she's an in-state player, obviously, too, from just
and loves basketball, by the way, and hates to lose more than she loves to win. And that competitive piece is what makes her so special.
3 straight years as the leading scorer in the Big Ten. Kelly Mazzante of Penn State, the only other one to do that. I like her chances to do it 4 seasons in a row.
She's got a shot.
I think she's got
so
a
you're
shot.
saying there's a chance?
There's a chance. Let's talk about the coach of the year. Teri Moren wins it. I mean, there were some incredible coaching jobs. Like, let's talk about Shauna Green. Incredible turnaround. Brenda Fries at Maryland, almost her entire roster turned over, and yet they've had an incredible year. But Teri Moren doing something that has never been done in Indiana, winning the Big Ten outright.
Coach of the Year to me was the most competitive category this season because you had so many different coaches that could make a case. Shauna Green had a fantastic season with Illinois. Same thing with Brenda Fries, to have basically no one returning to her roster and is still able to compete at the top of the league and in the country. But what Teri Moren has done this year for Indiana has been spectacular. 26 wins, the most in program history, first and foremost. Then you add in the fact that Indiana wins its first Big Ten title outright, which was actually hard to believe. When someone told me that earlier in the season, I was like, really? Indiana's never won a Big Ten title? That surprises me. Teri Moren, I was talking to somebody about this earlier. What makes her special? I think what makes Coach Moren so special is the fact that players truly buy in to her system, and she recruits the types of players that want to come to college and really have a high IQ, play on a disciplined team, and have to understand the game of basketball and think it at a high level. She's not going to let her players go out there and just shoot the ball every single time. They have to play within her system. They have to share the ball. They play inside, outside. As a result of that method, Indiana is the most dangerous team in the country right now because they are so disciplined and deep. They have 6 different players that are nearly averaging double figures in scoring. The fact that you can add in transfer portal pieces like Sarah Scalia from Minnesota and like Sydney Parrish from Oregon, and they've come into our system and fit in beautifully from a facilitating standpoint, from a scoring standpoint. Everybody on Indiana understands its role. And that starts at the top with the coach. There's nothing more frustrating as a player or a team when you don't know what your role is and you're just trying to figure it out as you go along. But Teri Moren has defined everyone's roles, and it's been a recipe for success.
We'll talk to Teri Moren coming up a little bit later in the show, as well as the Big Ten Coach of the Year joins us. But you mentioned it. I mean, this is a program that's kind of been built on that discipline, largely on defense through the years. But I think what's been really cool this year is how much more they score. I mean, this is
and the depth that they have
absolutely.
scored, and it's primed to make them, have the opportunity to have a deep run in March.
We talk about defense with Indiana and Mackenzie Holmes. I mean, let's just be honest. In a non-Caitlin Clark world, Mackenzie Holmes is probably Big Ten
100%.
Player of the Year. She's just incredible. She ends up winning Defensive Player of the Year. Give us a sense of the impact she has on that end of the court. Someone who, oh, by the way, is second in the Big Ten in scoring.
And you got to love a two-way player, right, who's playing offense and defense. But defensively, Mackenzie Holmes is 6'3". She has tremendous size and length in the paint. I've been so impressed with her timing on blocks this year. Yes, just being in the paint and putting your arms up means that you are going to be disruptive. But her timing has been fantastic, defending without fouling. When you've got some height, you want to try to block every single shot. But Mackenzie Holmes has been so disciplined with her decision-making on when she's going to time it to block without fouling cleanly. And as a result, it's been a game changer. People don't want to drive into the basket against Indiana because, Mackenzie Holmes is going to be standing right there. And there's a good chance that ball is going to get swatted to the third row.
Team that leads the Big Ten in scoring defense. She has a ton to do with that. But the freshman of the year, Cody McMahon, to step in on a really good Ohio State team and make the impact that she has. Give us some insight into her season.
Ohio State has actually had, as good as they've been, it's been kind of a tough road for them. They won the first 19 games, but had 2 major injuries to J.C. Sheldon and Madison Green, who is Ohio State's backcourt right there, has missed a majority, if not the whole season. Cody McMahon has done a great job stepping up, and I've been impressed with her from a defensive perspective. Ohio State loves to press. They mix it up between their 1-2-2 press, their 2-2-1, and Cody McMahon has just been so lethal back there, reading what the ball handler is going to do and getting steals. She's also incredible driving to the basket, great size at 6 feet, fantastic body control as well. So when she's coming down the lane, she doesn't look like a freshman. She looks like she's been in the weight room for 4 years with her other teammates. And she's so difficult to guard because she's quick, she's athletic, and her strength getting to the basket, you either got to try to step up and take a charge or just get out the way because at the end, it's not going to end well for you. She has a very good chance of posterizing you.
Right. 10 points. 4 rebounds, 2 assists per game, and shooting 50% from the field. There's only 2. She's the only D1 freshman, I should say, who has pulled that off. So she has really had an incredible year, really well-rounded. How about Hannah Stolke? She doesn't always get acknowledged for Iowa just because of the immense star power that they have, but sixth player of the year, well deserved.
And somebody that we're honestly not talking about enough, Iowa freshman Hannah Stolke has just been fantastic coming off the bench. And what it does is it gives players like Monica Sinano a chance to take a rest, and Iowa doesn't pick off any steam or get any steam, let it go. Hannah Stolke's actually been fantastic when it comes to running the floor. And when you got a point guard like Caitlin Clark, just like that, you can see if you run the floor, Clark's going to reward you. Stolke's really aggressive around the rim. She's a smart player. She's starting to embrace the level of physicality that comes with playing in the Big Ten and at the next level. But I'm just impressed with her ability to run the floor because there's not very many freshmen. Look, when you're 6'2", 6'3", it's tough to get up the floor and run hard. But as a freshman, she just plays so hard trying to get up and down the floor. And it's made a difference because it allows Iowa to play at the pace they want to play at. And as a result, the Hawkeyes have become one of the hardest teams to defend because it's just another added weapon they have scoring-wise.
She averaged better than 7 points a game. She's the highest scoring player in the league who did not start at least one game this year. So those are the individual awards. We looked at the players who made first team all conference. Again, a dozen of them. We've talked about Caitlin Clark, Mackenzie Holmes. What else stands out as you look at this list?
There's so many. I think Emily Kaiser, a player from Michigan who's had such a great year, coming in, we didn't know what was going to happen with Michigan when Naz Hillman left. And this Michigan team has picked up pretty much where they left off. Having that injury to Layla Filia, they've kind of lost some steam a little bit over the course of the last month. But that being said, still a team that has a shot at hosting in the NCAA tournament. Emily Kaiser, huge reason why, because she can play on the interior and knock it down from three. And then Cheyenne Sellers is a player from Maryland who I think has been great defensively. She really started to shine last season, and it's carried over to this year. She's always put on the toughest offensive assignment when it comes to scouting. But from an offensive perspective, she's really stepped up her game as well this year. And Maryland's a team right now. I tell you what, I don't want to play Maryland right now if I'm any other team in the Big Ten because they've just started to peak. And at this time, you want to be peaking right about now as you head into March.
Yeah, played just a fabulous, virtually flawless game against Iowa last week. And Diamond Miller, again, we talk about kind of what it would look like in a non-Caitlin Clark world. Diamond Miller's having the kind of year that a player of the year has. And Makira Cook, too. Worth noting. What about Illinois, right? I mean, it's an incredible story.
We haven't even talked about Illinois yet.
She is their first-team all-conference player in a decade.
Really?
Yeah. She's been really good.
I'm shocked, too.
Every once in a while, we bring a little shocking news. All right, more coming up. We're going to look ahead to the tournament with Megan and lots more women's hoops coverage. As promised, we're going to visit with Caitlin Clark next, the best player in the country, looking back and looking ahead with us as well. We do want to note the second teamers. These are players who did not make either first team, and some fabulous players here, including two more from that Illinois team, Kendall Bostic, Genesis Bryant, Abby Myers making a huge impact for Maryland as a transfer, Alexis Markowski, really good year for the Huskers. Just a really impressive group overall. We got more Big Ten today coming up. Our big stat brought to you by Old National Bank. Caitlin Clark averaging better than 27 points, 8 assists, and 7 boards. She is the only college basketball player, man or woman, to pull that off in the last 13 years. Only 4 NBA players have done it, and they're 4 of the best players in the game. Luka, LeBron, Russell, James Harden. It is really some pretty good company for the Big Ten Player of the Year who joins us for today's big interview. Caitlin Clark, what do you think when you see your name on a list with those 4?
It's pretty wild, honestly. I'm somebody that obviously, I want to be able to do a lot of different things for my team. And, when I have a triple-double or double-double, something like that, I feel like our team has pretty good success. But, to be in the company of people you idolize and still get to watch on TV every single night, it's pretty wild. It makes you kind of take a step back for a second.
Caitlin, how has this season compared with your expectations for yourself? I mean, we certainly know about external expectations. I think a lot of people coming in this year were like, well, yeah, Caitlin Clark will be the Big Ten Player of the Year again. But how about for you personally? How would you compare what you'd hoped for versus what you've accomplished?
Yeah, I think, every year you kind of want to improve and be better and be a better version of yourself. And I think I've, certainly been that. I think, being able to be bigger, stronger, faster, and be able to spend time with my team in the summer. I wasn't away for USA basketball. I was here all summer long. And I think, that really helped our team even take another step forward. But obviously the Big Ten's been loaded this year. We would have loved to be regular season champions, but, we can still be Big Ten champions when we go to the tournament this week. So we're excited about that. But, I think we've been very consistent. I think we have 4 wins versus AP top 10 teams, which is really challenging. And we played a very, very hard schedule this year. So, that's what's going to prepare you for March and for the biggest games of the year. So, I think we're ready. I think our coaches have, put us in a lot of situations to be prepared for those moments.
I want to take you back to Sunday. I've heard you kind of describe the immediate aftermath, like literally the play that won the game and kind of those 10 seconds or so afterward. But take us further after that shot, like maybe an hour or so. Like, is there a moment where it sinks in? What were your interactions with fans and your teammates and players and the media, and kind of take us through this whirlwind after an amazing moment like that?
I mean, honestly, I still don't feel like it's kind of sunk in. I remember like thinking a couple hours after it, I was like, wow, did that really happen? To win it in that fashion, on senior day versus the number 2 team in the country, we had college game day there. It was a huge game. It was a sold out crowd in front of 15,000 people. And I think I've probably rewatched the shot in that moment quite a few times, and even the end of the game, where they go down and make 2 free throws and we kind of go into a timeout, and, we have to kind of diagram something up to try to get a shot off. But, you can't say enough about Monica Sonano. She sets a terrific screen. And then obviously Kate Martin, I think, she doesn't get enough credit at times. It's hard to inbound the ball in those situations. She's reading and watching a lot of different things. So she put it right in my shooting pocket, and I was able to get the shot off. And, I was just lucky enough to see it go in. But like I said, it's something we work on every day in practice. We've been through that play probably 100 times. So, I'm lucky that we just executed it and that everybody believed in me to make that shot.
Well, you've given them good reason to believe in you, I would say, Caitlin. It wasn't that big a stretch to think you might make it, but it's still really as remarkable a shot as I've seen kind of in that moment, the kind of pressure that you had. What does this mean? I think it's hard sometimes, right? There's so much pressure foisted upon people, and particularly, I think, in women's athletics, right, where you're a transcendent player and people are talking more broadly about what it can mean for the sport. But I'm going to ask you that question. You had, as you described so aptly, the spotlight on you and on your team and on Indiana and on this game and a sold-out crowd and everyone in the country who's even remotely interested in women's basketball, maybe even some who aren't, watching this game just to see what the excitement was about. What does it mean for this sport more broadly to have a moment like that?
I think the biggest thing, it just shows how exciting women's basketball can be and is. That's something I've known for a really long time. I grew up watching the game, watching the WNBA, watching college, going to college basketball games. But I think, it shows the growth of women's basketball and people wanting to support it. We've been playing in front of crowds basically over 12,000 every single night. That one was sold out with 15,000. But, overall, that was just a really, really good basketball game. It was a clean basketball game. People shot the ball really well. Indiana had really balanced scoring. There wasn't many turnovers. Then it came down right at the end, and that's what people want to see. That's what people want to tune in and watch. So I think it just shows more than anything how exciting our game is and how exciting our game can be. Maybe it won't always come down to a buzzer beater like that, but I think it just shows the potential that we have and that we've always had. And I think when people really tune in and watch, that's what's going to keep them coming back and wanting to keep turning the TV on and keep watching us.
When we were on the show last year, you were talking about all the various shout outs you've gotten from NBA players in particular, but just more broadly, was there a particular shout out or an acknowledgement that you got on social media after that shot this weekend that really stood out to you?
Oh man, I think I saw Patrick Mahomes said something about me. Alex Morgan actually posted me on her Instagram story, and I'm a huge soccer person. Like, I grew up playing soccer all throughout high school. I always grew up watching the women's national team, play in the World Cup and things like that. So that was pretty cool too, because she's one of the best soccer players, the game has ever seen. So that was pretty awesome too.
And Mahomes, you're a Chiefs fan, right?
Oh, yeah. We got the Super Bowl ring. He's the GOAT. So that was pretty cool.
Just pretty cool indeed. Hey, so you win Big Ten Player of the Year again. You did not win National Player of the Year last year. To what extent has that motivated you this season?
Honestly, I don't feel like it motivates me too much. I feel like if I just go out there and be me every single night, the rest kind of just takes care of itself. And I get it. I love getting to go and play in front of sold out crowds, whether it's on the road, whether it's here in Carver Hawkeye Arena. That's what I love getting to do. I've always loved getting to play the game, and when you get to do it with your best friends, that's what makes it so fun. And I feel like I'm playing my best when I just love it. And go out there and have fun. So that's what I try to do every single night. And, I think the rest will take care of itself. But, Coach Bluter always says, when my light shines, when Monica's light shines, it shines on our whole program and what Coach Bluter's been able to build here and the players she's been able to develop. So, I think it's pretty special for our entire program, to win certain awards or things like that.
Well, your light is shining quite brightly, and clearly it does it on the court. I know it does it off the court as well. Give me some insight on what it's like for you day to day on campus. Like, are you able to just kind of hole up in the corner in Starbucks and open up your laptop and do a little homework? Or are you constantly being recognized and patted on the back and talked to and having selfies taken and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think, there's definitely a balance to it. Some classes I take online, some classes I take in person. But honestly, I think, the reason I came here is because people love sports. This is like professional sports to our state, and they support women's basketball here. And it's not like that every other place. So, any moment I can, meet a young fan or meet somebody that's a fan that's been supporting our team, I'll always take time to do that. And, I'm really lucky that I'm in the place that I am and get to meet those type of people, and they continue to show up for our team and support our team. So, I love it. I love getting to meet fans outside of, just playing the game. I think that's what, makes them want to keep coming back and supporting our team and coming to games. So, I think it definitely can be crazy at times, but I'm lucky that I get to be in this place with such great fan support, of women's basketball.
Well, you'll be there at least one more year. You can't get drafted into the WNBA until after your senior year, but I saw that you had said this week that you are considering coming back maybe for that extra COVID year. What will kind of the calculation be as to whether or not to take a fifth year?
Yeah, I don't think it's something that I really have to decide on anytime soon. But obviously, there's pros and cons to both. Obviously, the WNBA is my dream, and that's where I want to be, when I'm done here. But, getting to play in front of 15,000 people every single night and be around your best friends doing that, I think that's pretty incredible as well. And I still feel like there's, quite a few areas for me to improve on in my game before, I take the next step to the professional level. So definitely not something I'll be deciding on anytime soon, but, just to have your options open, you don't need to be closed to one thing. And, I'm lucky that I get to be here and have another year for sure. Cause time goes fast. So I'm just trying to, enjoy every single second of it and soak it in.
How has NIL changed that?
Yeah, I don't think it's honestly changed it too much. Endorsement deals have always been something that, professional women athletes have been getting and still continue to get. And that's also growing. So I think it's more so new to the college era than, the professional era. So I don't think that's something that will really factor into my decision of, staying or going too much. But, I think it's awesome that, NIL is an opportunity for college athletes now. And I think it's been able to do some really incredible things, especially here at the University of Iowa.
I want to leave you with this. You're probably aware of this, but no team representing the Big Ten has won the national championship in women's college basketball this century. Maryland won it when they were in the ACC. How much do you and your teammates talk about the possibility of being that breakthrough team?
Yeah, no, that's our goal. That's where we want to be. But also, I think the Big Ten is, one of the best conferences in the country, if not the best. And I think, it's grown a lot over the past few years. The talent level has gotten a lot better. The top of the conference is really, really loaded. And I think that's even going to make the Big Ten tournament really exciting because there can be quite a few different champions. And, you're going to have those top 10 matchups even when you get into the semifinals. So, that's where we want to be at the end of March. We want to be in the Final Four. That's our goal. And, we believe we can be there. And that's all it's going to take is just a lot of hard work and belief in one another. So, we're excited. This is the best time of the year for basketball. And I feel like our team is playing the best basketball we have all year right now.
Well, can't wait to see you in action in the Big Ten tourney starting on Friday. And, of course, the game Friday, the game Saturday here on the Big Ten Network. Caitlin Clark, congratulations on all of your success. It has been so much fun to watch you play this year and can't wait to see what March holds for the Hawkeyes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Trey Demps is here. Pretty interesting game, Trey. Michigan State trying to bounce back from the collapse in Iowa City. Obviously, the Hawkeyes had a lot to do with it, but that's a game you got to win if you're the Spartans. And then Nebraska has really been playing well, and they've won 4 straight games here, 5 of their last 6. They're really good at home. What are you focused on in this one?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that this Nebraska team is a completely different team than they were the last time these two teams met. I mean, you even look at Tominaga's numbers when the last time these two teams met. He only had 2 points in 11 minutes. It's a much more offensive-minded team for Nebraska. They have scored 70 points in the last 6 games. And I'm interested to see kind of what Michigan State is and how they bounce back. I think we're going to learn a lot about them and their toughness and their togetherness and their resiliency. I mean, to go through that as a player where you give up that 11-point lead in the last 65 seconds of the game is a big deal, and it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. But I think the biggest thing that I'm looking for also is A.J. Hoggard in their last matchup had 9 assists in the last matchup these two teams played, really picked apart that defense with that pack line defense that Nebraska plays. They had 24 assists on the game, so I think that's a big thing is how Nebraska is going to play on the defensive end against Michigan State.
You look at Nebraska during this winning streak, and as you pointed out, I mean, they've been scoring the ball at so much of a better clip. You mentioned 6 straight games, 70 or more points. They had 6 such games in the first 23.
Right.
So, I mean, it's pretty remarkable to think how much better they are. But I think what's been amazing to me is you lose Bandamil and Gary, and you kind of think, well, the defense is just going to take a plunge here.
Right.
They're 4th in the Big Ten in defensive efficiency here over the last 4 games. And granted, they've won them all, but it hasn't just been outscoring people. They've been pretty good on that defensive end as well. So to not have the drop-off you would think they would have, despite being without those guys, speaks to how well they played.
Yeah, I think it's just the young guys just getting comfortable with Fred Hoiberg's system on the defensive end. They really like to pack the paint a little bit. Even when there's a post-up, you see 4 guys in the paint. So there's a lot of rotations. There's a lot of reading. And I got to give Bandamel and Juwan Gary a lot of credit for kind of just building that culture of making this a defensive-minded team. When those 2 guys first went out, Nebraska did struggle on the defensive end. You know, they kind of had a hard time kind of making those adjustments because it's a kind of a unique defense. But over the last 4 games, we've kind of seen those younger guys being able to pick it up, and they've been playing at a high level. This is the hottest team in the league.
It is a series Michigan State has owned. They've won 10 in a row against the Huskers. What about Iowa and Indiana? So the Hawks trying to ride that wave of momentum after that incredible game. Now they head on the road, though, where they just flat out have not been good in conference play. Visiting an Indiana team that's lost just once at home in Big Ten play and has 2 home games this week. So really feels like they're in a good spot to get one of those double byes. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, I think both of these teams are coming off extremely emotional games, right? You talk about Indiana playing your rival and getting that big win. Iowa, obviously, with the big comeback. So even though these are 2 high-powered offenses, I wouldn't be surprised if, especially offensively, there's a little bit of a hangover. But I think the biggest thing for this game that I'm looking for is in their last meeting, Iowa really was struggling, you know, being able to kind of get back into the game a little bit. It was 33-15, and then Iowa went to that zone. And that really allowed Indiana kind of to struggle on the offensive end. You know, they made a big run. And Indiana's kind of struggled against zone defenses, even going to like the Minnesota game a few weeks ago or 4 or 5 weeks ago where, you know, Minnesota went to that zone and they kind of struggled to kind of be able to have some offensive production. But I think over the last few games, what we've seen is Indiana's guards have really shot the ball a lot better from the perimeter, especially Miller Kopp and Trey Galloway. Those guys have been able to kind of stretch the floor. And I think for Indiana, too, one of the biggest things is how they're going to defend Chris Murray. They kind of don't have a guy that can guard a guy like Chris Murray. When you talk about Race Thompson is more of a traditional 4, and then some of their perimeter players and wings are kind of smaller. Chris Murray kind of had his way in their last meeting, so I think that's a matchup to watch for.
It's a problem for a lot of teams, how you're going to deal with Chris Murray, right, on the defensive end. But again, Indiana's so good at home. I was 2-7 in conference road games this year, and you think about the Hoosiers really in a good spot here. I mean, you get Iowa and Michigan at home. These are 2 teams that need wins. I mean, it's certainly not going to be a cakewalk, but man, to get that win against Purdue, they have really put themselves in a great spot.
Yeah, they really have. And they're getting contributions from everybody because I think one of the things that I've noticed is that TJD's durability, I think, is kind of maybe in question a little bit of how much he's been called upon.
Playing a lot of minutes.
Playing a lot of minutes, having to guard ball screens on every possession, playing against some of the premier bigs in the country, getting the ball on pretty much every possession. I mean, you look over his last 2 games. I mean, his numbers aren't terrible, 15 points per game over the last 2, but you can kind of just see some of the fatigue that he has had, especially when in the middle of the conference play where he's had to carry this team on the offensive end. So I think they're going to need to continue to get contributions from guys off the bench and some of their complementary pieces.
Again, Hoosiers looking for revenge. They were up 21 in that game in Iowa City. It was a huge turning point for the Hawkeyes season as they came back and got the win. Back on Big Ten Today, and in case you're just joining us or in case you just have a really bad memory, Indiana's Teri Moren, the Big Ten Coach of the Year for the second time. She joins 4 other active Big Ten coaches who have been so honored on multiple occasions. Brenda Freese, the active leader with 4, one of which came in her lone season at Minnesota. And Teri Moren joining us now. Coach, congratulations, first of all, on a well-deserved award. How does winning it the second time compare with winning it the first time in your second season at IU?
Well, thank you, Dave. It's great to see you this morning. I think the first, is always special, but every team is different. But this time around is, very, very special because of the group that we have, because of the year that we've had. The first ever Big Ten championship won in 40 years. And so, I am obviously humbled by all of it, but none of this is done alone, as you know. I have a terrific staff, one of the best in the country, with a terrific team that has really propelled, this happening. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for those people that I get to work with every day. But we have hopefully a lot of basketball ahead of us.
Coach, you won both the Coaches Award and the Media Award, not in any way to minimize the insights of my fellow media members. I vote in these awards as well. But is it more meaningful when your peers vote you in as well?
No question. I can't tell you, I can't overstate it enough how incredible this league is. We have the best coaches in the country, night in and night out, with some of the best players in the country. It's so special and humble. And I'm just, like I said, humbled by the fact that, they would, give me this honor this particular year, in a year where the Big Ten has been so terrific. With how the seedings came out, with the 5 being in the top 16 seeds, tells you just a little bit about how challenging this year has been, but also how great it's been, not just in the Big Ten, but nationally. We have continued to stay at the top throughout this entire season in terms of the teams and being able to accomplish, what we've been able to accomplish. So, yeah, I'm really grateful to my peers for sure.
Coach, how do you describe your coaching style?
Well, I think a lot of it is, I feel like I try to be, very disciplined. I think when you watch our players, there's a toughness, there's a grittiness, and I think that's just part of my DNA from growing up in southern Indiana to having 2 parents that worked, every single day, and that was the example that my siblings and I, got to see and be around every day. And so, I try to pride myself in the work ethic piece. I try to, pride myself in, just leading these women the best I can. I want to be their biggest cheerleader, but I also want to, challenge them and help them grow throughout the time that they're here in Indiana. Again, we hang our hat on the defensive side of the ball, and with that comes a lot of, all the toughness, the grittiness, the stinginess, and so, I think that's probably the best way to describe me, but I certainly hope that, off the floor I'm able to make the impact, on these young women, because they're so great, and I want them to always feel like that there's nothing that they cannot accomplish if, the work ethic is part of what they do every day.
Coach, you're not in a courtroom right now, but I'm going to have to ask you to raise your right hand.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, I got a little passionate, on senior night down the stretch. We had just I think it was our third turnover in a row. We had a nice lead, and Dave, I want to see pretty basketball, and we were not at that moment playing pretty basketball, and so I perfectly came down on the scores table and was able to fracture my finger. So. And it's funny because all the kids were trying to guess on what particular play it was, and I said it's somebody in this room, right? When we were watching film, that is responsible. And so it just so happened that Grace Berger was involved in that moment, and she turned around and she said, "I knew it was me." And so, that's the specialness of Grace, and she's a true competitor, and so am I, and again. As I said to you, you think as I get older, I get smarter, but I feel like in that moment, I was going a different direction, but not that I'm happy with it, but it did happen, and it made for a good story, and it really, I think, broke the ice for our players, so that was good.
That is for sure. If it takes fracturing a bone to break the ice for your players, right? You're willing to go that distance. Let me ask you this in closing: Big Ten tournament this week. You have not won it, and Indiana's never won it.
Right.
What would it mean
right.
to IU to win the Big Ten tournament?
Well, yeah, we have some boxes that we've tried to check throughout the season, and certainly we've been able to check a few of those early. But this would be one of those boxes that we have in our sights. And when this group sat down and talked about the goals that they wanted for the season, certainly winning the Big Ten tournament, because we came so close to it last year, and we were up against a tremendous Iowa team that once again is so good, but the field is loaded. I think this is going to be one of the best Big Ten tournament championships that we've had in some time, just because of the talent that's throughout the entire league this year.
Big Ten Coach of the Year, Teri Moren. Coach, congratulations again on a fabulous season to this point. Look forward to seeing what is to come here for the Hoosiers in the weeks ahead.
Thanks, Dave. It's good to see you.
Likewise. Moren's Hoosiers, the top seed, heading to Minneapolis, joining Iowa, Maryland, Ohio State with the double byes. Michigan and Illinois just behind them. Again, the tourney tips off tomorrow. The first game features Minnesota and Penn State, Rutgers and Northwestern to follow that. Megan is back with us. Aside from Teri Moren's hand, the biggest storylines.
Did you hear? Yeah, I'm like gasping at that. If the thing looks like it's in bad shape, we got to catch up with Coach at the tournament about that one. I think the biggest storyline in this tournament is going to be, one, can Indiana win the whole entire tournament? It's a definite possibility. But two, this tournament is going to be massive for NCAA tournament seeding positions. There were 5 different Big Ten teams in the committee's top 16 reveal the last time it happened. Okay, you had Iowa, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio State, and Maryland. This is going to be huge for Michigan and Ohio State in particular to get some wins in the Big Ten tournament, because you want to be one of those top 16 seeds, because that means you get to host the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament. If those 5 teams can just at least get a win or two in the Big Ten tournament, I think that could seal the deal for them down the line.
Who else could help themselves the most in Minneapolis?
Purdue needs to help themselves a little bit. I am pretty confident that they're going to be a tournament team based off the resume they've put forth this year, especially knocking off Ohio State when that team was ranked second in the country, and Illinois when Illinois was in the top 25. That being said, if Purdue can pick up just one more win, for some reason the committee's been a little finicky with some of the Big Ten teams over the course of the last couple of years. You really need a good, solid 20-21 wins in order to prove to the committee you deserve to be a tournament team. If Purdue can get at least one, I think they're a deadlock.
And then you got Michigan State and Nebraska kind of on the fringes of the bubble as well. Can you make a deep run?
Yeah, it's just going to mean, can you pile up a couple of wins down the stretch? Nebraska is another team I think that's going to have to do a lot of damage in the Big Ten tournament in order to make it to the NCAA tournament.
Is there an under-the-radar team that you think could make a run?
I'm going to talk about, we always talk about, the semifinals and the final teams. So let's talk about some of the teams you're going to see earlier in the tournament. I think Wisconsin is a team that's playing its best basketball right now. The Badgers have knocked down 33s over the course of the last 3 games. That averages about 47% from beyond the arc. There's a young woman, Sarah Williams, who's going to be a fantastic player throughout the course of her Big Ten career. She's only a freshman, but she's been really strong, solid on the defense side of the ball as well, the offensive. I'm excited to see what Wisconsin can do because they're playing excellent basketball right now. Just knocked off Michigan the other day.
Team that beat Michigan this week. I mean, really making some progress there in Madison. There are some obvious ones, but first of all, this is the non-Caitlin Clark edition. So let's put her aside in terms of our players to watch. Everyone is going to be watching Caitlin Clark, but in the non-Caitlin Clark edition, who are the players you'll be watching?
There are fantastic freshmen in the Big Ten. And I think when you want to talk about the first and second days, there's some great freshmen you're going to see in some of the earlier matchups. Caroline Lau from Northwestern is a point guard that started to really come on the scene and is going to have a fantastic career for the Wildcats. Mentioned Sarah Williams already. Kayleen Smichael for Rutgers has had a great season. She's on that Big Ten all-freshman team. Penn State's Shea Chesky has also been fantastic this year. She's somebody that's really stepped up for Penn State and has done a lot of good things. And Minnesota has three fantastic freshmen between Amaya Battle, Mallory Heyer, and Mara Braun. So you have really good young talent you're going to be able to see early on. It's just kind of fun to see what's going to happen over the course of the next couple of years. But you can say that you notice them first when you watch them on the first and second days of the tournament.
The tip from Megan.
You got the insider information.
Absolutely. I mean, the present is so great in the Big Ten that you almost don't want to think about the future because you just want to lean into what's going on and enjoy it so much. But as you say, it just feels like there's so many programs on an uptick in the league. Ultimately, who do you think emerges from this? Give us a championship game preview and prediction.
You know, I think it's going to be Indiana-Iowa again. It's going to happen again, just based off how well these two teams are playing right now in the present. Maryland and Iowa are going to have to eventually likely meet again in order to get to the finals, and as well as Maryland played against Iowa the second time rather, I don't think the Hawkeyes are going to let that happen again. It's going to be a great rematch. I'm excited to see if that actually comes to fruition, but it would not shock me whatsoever if we saw another Iowa-Indiana or a Maryland-Indiana final.
I said this with Steph White yesterday, and I'll repeat it here because, I don't have that many original thoughts, but
do any of us really have original thoughts?
Sign me up for Indiana-Iowa for a third time, absolutely, but sign me up for Iowa-Maryland.
I mean, sign me up twice if you can. It's just been a great battle, and talk about just fantastic coaching. Brenda Fries, I thought, really showed off her knowledge as a coach in that game with her defensive assignment, the way they attacked defensively. Caitlin Clark mixing up defenses and ultimately, scoring as well. That's a fun team to watch. That's a team that could make some serious damage in March.
Yeah, I would be pretty excited to see. If we could see both of those games, that'd be something. But either one of those games, it's going to be a great tournament. Safe travels to Minneapolis.
Thank you.
Have fun. Looking forward to the calls. Megan McEwen. It's Day of Black History Month today. Been amazing to hear these stories all year, and congratulations to all of the big impact pioneers. Got a few minutes left here with Trey. We're handing out the women's awards today. We're handing out the men's awards next week. Let's run through some of your picks on them, starting the player of the year. I mean, TJD's made a great run here, but do you still feel like this is Zach Edey's award?
Oh, for sure. 100%. I mean, you look at his numbers. He's fifth in the country in scoring, first in rebounds. I mean, I think the most impressive stat for him, though, is 66 blocks and 47 fouls on the year.
Right.
He's getting it done on both ends of the floor. And I want to debunk, this whole thing that he's not the best player, but just the most dominant player. He is the best player and the most dominant player in the country to me by far. He's just been great all year and the key to Purdue's success.
Leading scorer and rebounder in the Big Ten, and of course his team has wrapped up at least a share of the Big Ten title. Who are you going with Coach of the Year wise?
I think it's going to come down to who has the better record between Maryland and Nebraska with Kevin Willard and Chris Collins. I think
Maryland Northwestern.
Well, yeah, Maryland Northwestern. I think when I look at both of these programs, I mean, where they were in the offseason a year ago to where they are now, picked 10th and 13th respectively, what both of these coaches have done with their programs is establishing that culture and identity, I think has just been so impressive thus far for the year, and I think I have to go with those two guys.
We'll see how they finish.
Yeah, how they finish. Yeah, right.
Perhaps. Who do you like for Defensive Player of the Year?
I think it's Chase Audige. And I think when you look at Defensive Player of the Year, a lot of times you go with the guy that has the leading number of blocks or steals. But I always look at kind of how they do against their matchup. And I look at the matchups. Chris Murray this year when Chase Audige was guarding him, 5 of 13 from the field. Jet Howard, 2 of 8 from the field, 8 points. Terrence Shannon Jr. when they played in Evanston, 3 of 8 from the field. So when I look at Chase Audige and his ability to lock down some of the best players in the league, I got to go with him.
Could make a case certainly for Caleb McConnell and some others as well. Let's finish up with Freshman of the Year.
Jalen Hood-Schifino, for me, is the freshman of the year. You look over his last 5 games, 20 points per game, 11th in the conference in usage rate. I really feel like he's done a great job kind of stepping into that role as the lead guard for this Indiana team. Has been the key to their success.
It did feel like it was going to be Bryce Sensabaugh for a while, but just the way that Hood-Schifino has played in huge moments, and I think that Purdue game probably went a long way.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to kind of utilize that mid-range game, attack downhill, and he's been a lot better with decision-making as well.
We will find out all of this in a week here on Big Ten Today. Show comes at you from Minneapolis tomorrow. I'll see you for Hoops tomorrow night.